Imagine waking up every day feeling trapped, like invisible chains hold you back from your dreams, success, and peace. What if I told you that there's a powerful spiritual weapon hidden in the Bible, a prayer that can shatter curses, break every blockage, and open the floodgates to victory and abundance? Sounds almost too good to be true, right? But Psalm 47 isn't just ancient poetry, it's a divine blueprint for reclaiming your life. This psalm boldly challenges what you've believed about your limits and invites you to step into a realm where angels fight for you, where prayers unlock doors no one else can open. If you've ever felt stuck, overlooked, or overwhelmed, get ready to discover the secret power that's been right under your nose all along. You know, there are moments when life feels like walking through invisible webs. You try to move forward, but something keeps pulling you back. Things just don't flow. That's when Psalm 47 steps in like a silent but mighty force. It's not just about reading verses, it's about activating a spiritual weapon that cuts through unseen chains. Many don't realize that the Bible is loaded with strategic spiritual tools. This is one of them. When someone feels surrounded by envy, negative words, or even spiritual attacks, it's easy to think it's just bad luck or coincidence. But here's the truth most won't tell you. These forces are real, and they affect people every day. Psalm 47 works as a spiritual reset, pushing back darkness and calling in divine authority. Angels aren't just floating beings in art, they're assigned warriors, and when you pray with intention, you're not alone. You're backed by heaven's elite force. Imagine walking into a job interview that suddenly flows smoothly, or experiencing unexpected peace at home after weeks of tension. These aren't just events, they're results. That's what happens when you break spiritual blockages with prayer, especially with tools like Psalm 47. But to truly see results, you've got to approach it with surrender, opening your heart fully. And that, right there, brings us to something even deeper. Let's be real, most people pray only when things fall apart. They toss up a few words, hoping for some cosmic fix. But there's a secret few understand. Real power begins with surrender. Not the kind where you give up out of defeat, but where you hand over your plans to a God who sees the whole battlefield. That kind of surrender? It's not weakness, it's wisdom. And Psalm 47 starts there, right at the heart of it all. When someone praises God's greatness, it's not about stroking an ego up in the clouds. It's about aligning the soul with something infinitely bigger. Try this. Before asking for anything, spend a few minutes just thanking God, out loud, for who He is. Notice how it shifts the atmosphere. Angels move where there's praise. You're not just speaking to the air, you're stirring the heavens with faith. And in that space, something powerful opens. It's in this surrendered state that true prayer begins, not the rushed kind, but the kind that touches deep. You start asking not just for help, but for divine presence in your finances, your family, your mind. And as you do that, something starts to shift. But here's the twist. When you ask for divine intervention, you're not just praying against problems. You're inviting a full-force heavenly strategy. And that leads us into the next key. There's a reason why some people seem to hit invisible walls. No matter how hard they try, things just won't move. They plan, they push, but doors stay shut. That's not random. The Bible makes it clear, not all battles are visible. Some are spiritual, some emotional, others financial. Psalm 47 becomes a declaration of war against these hidden traps. And here's the kicker. You don't need to see your enemy to defeat it. You just need to pray with authority. Have you ever noticed how sometimes relationships fall apart for no reason, or your finances suddenly spiral? These aren't always coincidences. Traps are often set subtly, through fear, discouragement, or even friendly faces masking envy. That's why, when someone prays this psalm, they're not just speaking words. They're releasing spiritual fire that exposes lies and crushes sabotage. Angels begin to clear the path, and suddenly, what was stuck starts to flow. And this is where things get interesting. The moment you stop treating obstacles like life being unfair and start commanding them to be removed in prayer, things change. Emotionally, peace returns. Financially, provision shows up. Spiritually, you feel lighter, sharper, more aligned. But we're just scratching the surface, because beyond clearing what blocks you, there's a divine plan to restore everything that was lost. You see, it's not enough to just break the curse or silence the enemy. What comes next is just as vital: restoration. God doesn't stop at removing the bad. He's in the business of restoring what was stolen. Psalm 47 takes a bold turn here. It doesn't whisper for scraps. It cries out for full restoration, body, soul, and wallet. And yes, it's okay to ask for abundance. The Bible is clear: when God restores, it's not halfway. Think about this. Someone loses their job, but instead of spiraling, they pray this psalm with faith. Within weeks, a better offer comes, with more peace and purpose. That's not luck, that's restoration. When you align with divine wisdom, your path lights up, healing flows, decisions get clearer. And here's the powerful part. You don't just get blessed, you become a blessing. Suddenly, you're the one lifting others, sowing into their lives, praying with power. There's a ripple effect that begins when restoration takes root. God doesn't give just enough, He gives an overflow. So as your healing begins, as peace settles in, and as opportunities arise, you'll feel something else stir inside you. The urge to give, to guide, to serve. And that desire? It's no coincidence. It's preparing you for a much deeper transformation. Here's something most people forget. The words you speak shape your world. That's why Psalm 47 doesn't just ask, it declares. It's a bold faith move, like stepping onto the battlefield and shouting, "I already won." There's no begging here, just confidence in a God who turns curses into stepping stones. It's not superstition, it's spiritual law. What you speak in faith carries the power of heaven behind it. Let's say someone feels like their life's been under a cloud. Bad luck, missed chances, heavy moods. Instead of sinking into despair, they start declaring that every curse is now fuel for victory. That's not just poetic, it's practical. People have seen doors open after declaring light over darkness. Why? Because darkness doesn't argue with light, it flees. When you bring God's light into your situation, confusion clears and truth stands tall. So, it's not just about getting free, it's about staying lit up with divine clarity. Faith doesn't ignore the storm, it walks right into it with confidence. And as the darkness lifts, something even more profound begins to happen. You become aware of the real battle behind the scenes, the spiritual attacks that try to sneak in quietly. But don't worry, that's exactly what comes next. Some battles aren't loud. They're silent and sneaky, like that sudden wave of anxiety out of nowhere, or that fear you can't explain. That's not just emotion, it's spiritual. Psalm 47 shifts here and becomes a fortress, a shield against what eyes can't see. When you pray it, you're not just asking for peace, you're commanding spiritual attacks to back off. And trust me, they do. Angels respond. Fear loses its grip. Have you ever felt chained to your past, like you keep attracting the same kind of pain, the same setbacks? That could be a soul tie. It's real, and it's heavy. But here's the breakthrough. When you pray this psalm with awareness, those invisible chains begin to snap. People start sleeping better. Relationships shift. The fog of fear lifts. And slowly, confidence returns. It's like stepping out of a prison you didn't know you were in. And once those attacks lose power, a new space opens up in your life, one where clarity can move in. But protection isn't just about defense, it's also about preparation. When your heart is healed and your soul untangled, you begin to hear God more clearly. And then comes the next essential piece, something most overlooked: discernment. Now that the fog is gone and your soul is lighter, it's time to see with different eyes. That's where discernment steps in, one of the most underrated gifts you can ask for. Psalm 47 doesn't just cry for protection, it cries for precision. Because here's the truth, not everyone smiling in your circle is sent by heaven. Some are distractions. Others, straight-up assignments from the enemy. That's why you don't just pray, you ask for divine insight. Take friendships, for instance. Ever had that one person who always left you drained? Or that project that looked good but kept collapsing no matter how hard you tried? That's where discernment flips the script. God starts showing you who's real and what's not aligned with His will. And it's not about paranoia, it's about clarity. Suddenly, you're not chasing everything. You're walking with focus, with peace. And as your eyes open, something deeper happens. Your dreams shift. What once felt urgent now feels guided. You're no longer striving. You're flowing. Your goals get refined. Your relationships recalibrate. And your spirit becomes more in tune with God's whisper. And just when you think you've settled into this new rhythm, Psalm 47 takes you one step further. Faith like a rock, that's the grand finale Psalm 47 calls for. It's easy to have faith when skies are clear, but the real test? When storms roar and everything inside screams, quit. This prayer teaches us to hold on tight, to trust in a God who's bigger than any battle. Imagine standing in the eye of the storm, calm and sure, knowing angels surround you and victory is already sealed. That's the kind of faith that moves mountains. Sometimes people think faith is blind, but it's actually the opposite. It's deeply informed trust built from seeing God's hand in every detail, even the ones you don't understand. When the night feels darkest, that faith shines brightest. It's the difference between giving up and pushing through, knowing that every setback is just set up for a comeback. And here's a tip. Whenever doubts creep in, remind yourself of past victories, those moments when prayers were answered in ways you never expected. But faith isn't just a feeling, it's a muscle that grows with practice. It's like training for a marathon. You can't expect to run 1,000 miles without building endurance first. So keep praying, keep surrendering, keep trusting. The battles you face today? They're nothing compared to the victory waiting just ahead. And that victory? Well, that's where your true journey begins. You've just uncovered a spiritual roadmap rarely shared, one that invites you to pray with power, break chains, and step into restoration with unwavering faith. But knowledge alone isn't enough. It's about applying these truths daily. So, what blockages in your life are you ready to destroy today? How will you start aligning your dreams with God's perfect will? Remember, each prayer is a step toward freedom and victory, and angels are right there, answering your cries. Don't let fear or doubt hold you back. Let your faith grow stronger with every challenge. What would your life look like if you fully trusted in the Bible's promise and the power of prayer? I encourage you to dive deeper, stay consistent, and watch how divine light floods every corner of your world. If this message moved you, be sure to subscribe and activate notifications so you never miss out on these life-changing insights. Your victory journey is just beginning. Are you ready to walk it?